Greetings, Pilgrims. Welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today I wanted to share with you a user request from Mantis Kava. He wrote on the Substance Tools group that he was having trouble creating this shape here. He was wanting to create this tile pattern for some architectural visualization that he was doing. And I wanted to jump in and help. So thank you, Mantis, for the opportunity to help. I learned a lot in this process, and a fellow user got what they needed, so that's always a good thing. So I'm going to show you two different ways to go about doing this. The first way, we are going to use a mask assistant, and then after we've covered that, we're going to go in how to do it completely procedurally. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump in. We'll take a look at what we got here. So using these, let me double click that. So here's our final, and we can see here what we've done is taken the mask, and he sent me an image, and I took that image into Photoshop and I cleaned it up a bit because the original image had a lot of graininess to it in here, and so by pushing the values of the blacks all the way up and the whites all the way down, I was able to basically create a mask. And using that mask, I then do a color to the mask, and then I did a slight blur to this because I wanted just a little bit of a fine edge to the corners here. I didn't want them quite so crisp, make it look more like it's been, painted, it's been applied somehow. So that's what I did. If you don't like that, you can skip that. That's your call. So up here we have three colors that we use in this pattern here. The first is the pattern color, which is everything you see here in these darker sections. We have the background color, which is the rest of the tile. And then we have the grout, which is in the edges here, in the seams in between. So using our mask, we're just going to go ahead and put the two together, our two main colors together. And these colors are driven off of a fractal sum base. So it's a color blended with a fractal sum, and then I put it through a levels to make some last minute adjustments. We're going to blend those together into here. Now this second blend here is where we start to get our, we're going to actually take the grout and kind of cut away from it. So using this with an inverted grayscale, so I get the white here, and I'm going to do a mask here. And so by masking that out, I'm masking those areas off. And I use two different tile generators here because the one is for creating the seams in the tile itself, and the second is for the actual color of the grout. That's what this is here. So we're going to use this as the mask, and then this guy is pulling from our grout color to put that grout coloring in the middle there. Okay? However, our normal map here is only deriving from the first one. So this is our normal map for the actual tiles themselves. And then I also took normals from the fractal sum base, because that's a really nice, structure to it. And then blending the two together, we can get the tiles with the grout free of that pattern. And as you see, might be a little hard to see on the video. There you go, that's a little better. So this is what gives us that really nice look to it. Okay. So that's basically all it is for using a mask. If you have a mask provided to you, your life is easy. And all of these over here, these are my outputs in this row. For some reason, this graph is about to implode on me, but for some reason it stopped accepting those in the viewport, so I had to just throw them over into blends here. But our normal and our color we've already covered. The roughness, the black, the metallic would just be black. The roughness is just a levels adjusted version of the color, and then the same thing here for the height. So if you have a mask, this is nice and easy. If you don't have a mask, or if you are like me and you want to go crazy and see if you can create it entirely procedurally, here's how you would do that. So here's my version, which is very, very faithful to the original, but I did go for a more thin pen line kind of look to it, and that's personal choice. Everything is procedural, so you can make any changes you wish. So let's go over how we do this, one section at a time. First up is our rings. So a ring is generated by using a shape node, and I'm just going to take a circle shape node, and then I'm going to blend it with a transformed version of itself, and the transform makes it just slightly smaller. And then using a subtract, I can cut out from the original circle, and now what I have is a ring. Okay, so that's how we generate our rings. Now over here to our flower stems. These are these lines here that come out and go curved around to connect to our flowers. So this is using a ring scaled down, and then using a just a blend by itself, no other inputs, just pushing it into a blend, I use these cropping area, and I can pull this down and cut off the top here. I think you can see where this is going now. If I transform and rotate and move it, now I get it where I want it. And then this is a common trick that I'm going to be doing a lot. I'm just going to call it, this is the 4-square technique if you want to get something into all 4 corners. So I'm going to blend this with itself put through a transform and mirrored. And then I do the same thing again, itself mirrored the other direction and transformed. There you go. And then one more time, I'm going to rotate it and blend it with itself. That gives me 2 here, etc. So there we go. So that's all of those shapes. Now over here to the thorns. So these are these little nubs right here, these, and this guy. Okay. So to create this, I took our circle, scaled it down, and then a square node from further down in the track. And what I'm going to do is transform those down, blend them together so I get this rectangle with a curved edge to it. Then I'm going to transform it with itself, mirrored horizontally, and now I get this basically a line with 2 curved ends. Perfect. Now I'd throw this into a transform to scale it down. I could scale it and position it all at once, yes. However, I like to have the freedom to pull from this repeatedly without additional transform information already baked into it. So this node here is purely for size. We don't touch any rotation or position. So what we're going to do here is blend a couple things together. First is I'm going to take that transform node, my sizing one, and transform it, rotate it, and push it into position. And then I'm going to blend that with another transform from the first one. But this guy is just going to move to a very exacting position right here, in fact. And then using another blend, and using this time on the right side, we're going to cut it off at a certain point. You can see that right there. Now when I blend the two together, I have this line and this line. Then we have one more that we need, which is this line here. So that's another transform from our source one, and then blending those together. And now here we do our 4-square trick. So I'm going to blend, mirror, blend, mirror, blend, mirror, blend, mirror. There you go. So that's all that is blending with itself transformed and then horizontally flipped and then vertically flipped. There you go. So that gives us all of those. Let's come back over here. So our corner rings are really simple. That's these guys here, 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 and here. All right. So transforming our original ring up into the corner, and then mirroring, blending, mirroring, blending. Nice and easy. So the outer and inner track here are very similar, and they're all using pretty much the exact same nodes, but we're just doing it in 2 different sizes. So here I can actually combine these, but we're going to take the circle, transform and put it into a position, and then blend it with itself vertically mirrored, and then blend it with itself horizontally rotated, not mirrored. Now what that gives us is this, which is great, but we have a little gap in the middle. So another transform of the original circle, blend in that little filler. There we go. Now the interesting part is all of these are literally copied and pasted from these up here, but we're doing it with the ring this time instead of the circle. So ring, ring, blend, rotate, blend, you get this. But then now here I'm going to do a subtract with the original. And what that gives me here is this little track. Okay? Now the inner track is exactly the same, except that the sizes are different. So by blending these together, you see that we have a lot more of a gap in the middle. So when we get this 4, there's a much bigger gap. So this required a larger circle here in the middle to fill that space. And then by doing the exact same thing with our rings here, you'll see what we end up with here. Like that, we get that, and then by subtracting from the original, there you go. So that gives us these 2 tracks. So this track is this one here, and the first one we did up there is this larger, thicker one here. Okay, so those are done. Let's move on to some flowers. So this was probably one of the hardest ones that I did. This is the flowers in the corner here, these little things. So these are quite complex. Well, maybe not as complex, but I thought they were complex creating them. So we're going to take our crescent shape, and I'm going to throw it through a levels to get a little bit more of a... I wanted a lot of white in the center here, and you'll see why in just a little bit. Transform, I'm going to rotate that down this way, and then I'm going to warp this shape, which is a square squished to be very skinny, I'm going to warp it using this shape. And so I get this kind of sword look to it, which is pretty cool. Then I'm going to blend that with the square again, because what I got here was this is great, but this is not so great. So by blending, I cut some of that off. Perfect. We're back to a better shape. But now we really need to cut the sword blade looking part off here. So we're going to take our shape here, which is a square, this time squished to be thin the other direction, transform to be moved up, and we're going to cut that off. So now we're getting more of this shape minus this little nub. So that's looking pretty good. So this is another common trick that I use throughout this tutorial here. We're going to do a blur and then a color to mask. And what that does is that helps us to round off those edges, and then taking just the white from the middle allows me to take the shape that I really want. So now this was looking good, but I really needed to do this. I really need a taper. And there's not really a good way to bend or taper things inside of Substance Designer by itself that I've seen. So what you need to do is think outside the box. And a lot of times I take what I call a black hole approach. So the black hole approach says, if I can't add something to it, can I take something away from it? Because that's how we first encountered black holes. We didn't discover them based upon how they are. We discovered them by what was not there. So what can I take away to make this shape? So I take my square and I'm going to rotate it and scale it, position it, blend it with itself mirrored horizontally, and you'll notice if you look at the black area in here, that's exactly what I want. So by taking that and cutting it out of the original, I get this almost nail type shape. There we go, we got our taper. However, you'll notice this has to stop at a certain point and I get a curved end to it. So in order to do that, we need to take another transform of the square and then lop off the bottom of it. Take our circle from earlier, transform it, scale it, and then put that guy on the bottom there so you get that bottom nub. Perfect. Hard part is over. So now we need to create the little flower that bloom section in the middle here. So that is created using a ridged bell, and then we throw it into a levels and really crank the values. And then using our color to mask, I can cut out that shape. And then a transform to position, scale it, and then blend it together with our other shape here, and now we've got this shape. And then again at the end here, 4 square, so I'm just going to transform, rotate it, and then mirror it, blend the 2 mirrors together, blend 2 more mirrors together, and I've got my 4 in the corners. Excellent. Moving on. So we have our flowers main. These are these guys here, the main big flowers you see everywhere. Okay, so how do we do this? So using a shape here, we're using the crescent. Again, some levels. Want to create just a general, this kind of bean-like shape. There we go. Another shape, paraboloid. I'm going to transform it, levels, and then a histogram scan. And this is to kind of push the white closer to the edges and really get a nice kind of ball-like shape, because that's going to be our input to our warp. So we can kind of warp this bean shape a bit more. Blur. And then here we do another levels, and you can see I'm starting to get this shape really nice. Curve down, up, over, down. There we go. Color to mask to cut that out. Now what I needed to do was kind of cut off some on the ends here to create these outward flares. So I was able to do that using this transform from our circle earlier, and then cutting that out. And you see that cut out from here, but unfortunately it cuts out from the middle too. Not a big deal. We're going to take our circle, not our circle. We're going to take our ridged bell here that we color masked, and I'm going to transform that, put that guy in the middle, another one to kind of flesh it out. There we go. So now we're getting much more like this flower shape. And then blur, color to mask, and now it's time to 4 square them. So I'm going to put them in position, transform, scale, blend, rotate, blend. There you go. Got all our flowers. Okay. Now for the most complex part was these wings on the edge. These guys in here. Alright. So let's take a look at how we create those. These guys are pretty crazy. So lots of transforming using the circle as an oval. So we transform that here, another one here, blending them together, and see here I've offset it just a little bit, so I'm starting to create these shapes. And this is a lot like putty. I'm putting them into place, and then we're going to add or remove, mass, and then we will blur to get the shape we want. So putting those together like so, and then like this, and I did a subtract here to start to create this curve on the bottom. Then I'm going to blur, color to mask, and start to get my leaf shape a bit better. And then just adding some more mask to it again. Blur again, color to mask, start to get that in there. Then I'm going to cut out from the top that I've been creating. Now here's the point where I needed these little, I call them like teeth, like these little flares that come up. So you can see here I add one, but let's go back and figure out how we made that. So this is used, and this is pretty clever, I thought. Taking this little bean shape here, and we're going to blend and subtract another circles offset just so, because if you notice what that gives us is that cut out from here and here, and I get these perfect little flares here. Okay, transform, rotate, get the flare kind of upward facing, that little tooth. And then this, let me undrop this. This is a circle used as a mask in the center here to say, let me just get this. And I took a pretty large sloth so I could get this or this side, either one that I really wanted. Okay, that works. Then this guy over here just for position and scale, and we'll blend them together. Blend in a second one, and now you can see we're really getting that shape coming in quite nice. All right, so this is the same shape here, and then we've cut out from here using our circle. And now we're down to, we're going to move this slightly over to the left, and I'm going to blend this with itself horizontally mirrored, and that's going to give us the two wings on either side. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's bring in another circle egg shape here, position it quite so. And I'm going to add another one for some mass. Okay, let's bring this guy over here, and we're going to do this double cutout. The double cutout comes from a circle, blended with itself, mirrored and moved over a little bit, and then as a subtract. And if you very carefully line it up, you can match this curve pretty well, and that's a nice cutout there. Now we're going to build this bottom part, this little spike part. This is a square, scale down a bit, rotate 45, and a separate one for scale and transform. So I have my size, my 45 one way, and then my scale and stretching it different. And then put those two together, and I'm going to do another one of these double cutouts, just move down a bit to cut out from the bottom here. And then we do a blur, color to mask, and there you go. And then this is another 4 square here, so I'm going to move that up in the corner there, and I'm going to rotate, I'm going to mirror, pardon me, and then blend, mirror and blend, mirror and blend, rotate and blend. There you go, all of the ones that we need. Okay, just 2 more. So these are our corner caps, and what this is a circle, and then we have a cutout, and this cutout is a copied over, blended, mirrored, blended to get 4 in the corner of our flower up here, because I needed this sort of a punch out from the bottom here. So that's what we created, was taking that guy down here, come on down, and by putting him into the corner like that, I can move it around, and you can go back, and this is all set up so you can still take this and move it around if you want, determine how much of it you want showing. So we get that, we blur, we color to mask, that guy looks awesome. And now here we're just moving him to the corners, blending, corners, blending, there you go. Alright, last one, we're on the caps. Now these caps, if you look at the end here, you'll see the end result first. These are just these caps on the little nubs here that come off. And they're quite simple. It's a circle, transformed and moved, blended together so you get that. Another one transformed and moved, blended so you get that. And another one transformed and moved so you get that center part. And then a blur and a color to mask to kind of cut those guys out. Then here, moving and positioning to get them all into the right places. There you go. And then all of these are just simple blends together, of blending 2 elements at a time, and they're all set to max lighten, because all we care about is getting our nice our mask, and this is a solid mask. So you can see here, they're all kind of connecting together, coming in together, and there you go. And that brings us over to our final blends here, getting the colors in. All of the normal maps remain the same. So now this is a 100% procedurally generated shape all from here, all from simple shapes, just building up those shapes. It's all really it is it's no shape is too complex. You're just taking, it's made up of smaller shapes, so there's no way to not do it, just a matter of figuring it out. Now, this is not entirely perfect from what he originally showed me, but like again, I like this sort of more thin-lined look. I think it'll look better when it's tiled out over a large floor. But I think we did a great job here of recreating user request. We got exactly what he needed using his original mask. And then as an added bonus challenge, we went back and said, okay, now how would we do it, completely procedurally, all inside of Substance, no additional images required. And there you go. Now you can adjust all the sizes of everything. You can adjust the colors. You can introduce your own patterns. So anything you guys can think of, it's possible in here. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope this is helpful. If you have comments, questions, anything like that, let me know. If there's a shape you're having trouble creating, please let me know. I'm interested to jump in. I want to try it. I want to see if I can do it, because then you get what you need. I learn and I grow, and that's awesome. And I thrive on the challenge. So please let me know. Send it in. Again, I really hope you guys have enjoyed. So that's all we have for this week. As always, keep practicing, get better, and I will see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.